Academic discipline, theoretical English grammar, lecture 3, English verb, general description. The lecture is based on material from a course in theoretical English grammar by Mark Bloch. Grammatically, the verb is the most complex part of speech. This is due to the central role it performs in the expression of the predicative functions of the sentence. It does the functions establishing the connection between the situational event named in the utterance and reality. The complexity of the verb is inherent not only in the intricate structure of its grammatical categories, but also in its various subclass divisions, as well as its falling into two sets of forms profoundly different from each other, the finite set and the non-finite set. The complicated character of the grammatical and lexicogrammatical structure of the verb has given rise to much dispute and controversy. General categorical meaning of the verb. The verb expresses a process presented dynamically. It is developing in time. The general processual meaning is embedded in the semantics of all the verbs, including those that denote states, forms of existence, types of attitude, evaluation, etc., rather than actions. Edgar's room led out of the wall without a door. She had herself a liking for richness and excess. It was all over the morning papers. That's what I'm afraid of. I do love you, really I do. And this holds true not only about the finite verbs, but also about the non-finite verbs. The processual semantic character of the verbal lexeme even in the non-finite form is proved by the fact that in all its forms it is modified by the adverb, and with the transitive verb it takes a direct object. Mr. Brown received the visitor instantly, which was unusual. Mr. Brown receiving the visitor instantly was unusual. It was unusual for Mr. Brown to receive the visitor instantly, but an instant reception of the visitor was unusual for Mr. Brown. Forms of word building. Verbs are characterized by specific forms of word building. The verb stems may be simple, sound replacive, stress replacive, expanded, composite, and phrasal. The original simple verb stems are not numerous. Go, take, read, etc. But conversion zero suffixation as means of derivation, especially conversion of the noun verb type, greatly enlarges the simple stem set of verbs, since it is one of the most productive ways of forming verb lexemes in modern English. A cloud is a noun. To cloud is a verb. A house is a noun. To house is a verb. The sound replacive type of derivation and the stress replacive type of derivation are introductive. Food to feed, blood to bleed, import to import, transport to transport. The typical suffixes expanding the stem of the verb are et, cultivate, and broaden. Ify, clarify. Ice, normalize. The verb deriving prefixes of the interclass type are be, belittle, befriend, bemoan, and nm, engulf, embed. Some other verbal prefixes are remake, undergo, overestimate, submerge, misunderstand, undo, etc. The composite compound verbs stems correspond to the composite non-verb stems from which they are etymologically derived. Here belong the compounds of the conversion type blackmail. Blackmail is a verb, and of the reduction type proofreader, proofread, noun and verb. Infinitive. Among the various forms of the verb, the infinitive occupies a unique position. Its status is that of the principal representative of the verb lexeme as a whole. This head form status of the infinitive is determined by the two factors. The first factor consists in the verbal nominative nature of the infinitive, it is in its function of giving the most general dynamic name to the process, which is denoted by all the other forms of the verb lexeme in a more specific way, conditioned by their respective semantico-grammatical specializations. The second factor determining the representative status of the infinitive consists in the infinitive survey as the actual derivative base for all the other regular forms of the verb. Verb subclasses. The class of verbs falls into a number of subclasses distinguished by different semantic and lexicogrammatical features. There are auxiliary verbs, modal verbs, semi-notional verbs, and link verbs. Auxiliary verbs constitute grammatical elements of the categorical forms of the verb. These are the verbs be, have, do, shall, will, should, would, may, might. Modal verbs are used with the infinitive as predicative markers expressing relational meanings of the subject attitude type. It has ability, obligation, permission, advisability, etc. By way of extension of meaning, they also express relation probability, serving as probability predicatives. These two types of functional semantic can be tested by means of correlating pure modal verb collocations with the corresponding two sets of stative collocation of equivalent functions. On the one hand, the groups be obliged, be permitted, etc. On the other hand, the groups be likely, be probable, etc. Tom may stay for the interview if he will. Tom is permitted to stay. The storm may come any minute. You had better leave the desk. The storm is likely to come any minute. The modal verbs can, may, must, shall, will, ought to, need, used to. They are defective in forms and are suppletively supplemented by stative groups similar to those shown above. The supplementation is effected both for the lacking finite forms and the lacking non-finite forms. Link verbs. Link verbs introduce the nominal part of the predicate, the predicative, which is commonly expressed by a noun, an adjective, or a phrase of a similar semantic grammatical character. It should be noted that link verbs, although they are named so, are not devoid of meaningful content. Performing their function of connecting, linking the subject and the predicative of the sentence, they express the actual semantics of this connection. It is expose the relational aspect of the characteristics ascribed by the predicative to the subject. The linking predicative function in the purest form is effected by the verb be. Therefore, be as a link verb can be referred to as the pure link verb. It is clear from the above that even this pure link verb has its own relational semantics, which can be identified as linking predicative ascription. All the link verbs other than the pure link B express some specification of this general predicative link in semantics, so that they should be referred to as specifying link verbs. The common specifying link verbs fall into two main groups: those that express perceptions and those that express non-perceptional or factual link verb connection. The main perceptional link verbs are seem, appear, look, feel, taste. The main factual link verbs are become, get, grow, remain, keep. Actional and statal verbs. On the basis of the subject-process relation, all the notional verbs can be divided into actional and statal. Actional verbs express the action performed by the subject. Indeed, they present the subject as an active doer, in the broader sense of the word. To this subclass belong such verbs as do, act, perform, make, go, read, learn, discover, etc. Statal verbs, unlike their subclass counterparts, denote the state of their subject. That is, they either give the subject the characteristic of the inactive recipient of some outward activity, or else express the mode of its existence. To this subclass belong such verbs as be, live, survive, worry, suffer, rejoice, stand, see, know, etc. Alongside of the two verbal sets, a third one could be distinguished, which is made up of verbs expressing neither actions nor states, but processes. This can be shown by transformational tests. The snow is thawing. The snow is the state of thawing. The designer is considered another possibility. The action of the designer is that he is considering another possibility. English and Russian lexical aspect. English lexical aspect differs radically from the Russian aspect. In terms of semantic properties, the English lexical aspect expresses a potentially limited or unlimited process, whereas the Russian aspect expresses the actual conclusion, the perfective or terminative aspect, a non-conclusion, the imperfective or non-terminative aspect of the process in question. In terms of systemic properties, the two English lexical aspect varieties, unlike the Russian absolutely rigid counterparts, but loosely distinguished and easily reducible. In accord with these characteristics, both the English limited verbs and unlimited verbs may correspond alternately either to the Russian perfective verbs or imperfective verbs depending on their contextual uses. For instance, the limited verb arrive expressing an instantaneous action that took place in the past will be translated by its perfective Russian equivalent. The exploratory party arrived at the foot of the mountain. Russian экспедиция прибыла к подножию горы, but if the same verb expresses a habitual, intermittently repeated action, the imperfective Russian equivalent is to be chosen for its translation. In those years trains seldom arrived on time. Russian. В те годы поезда редко приходили вовремя. Thank you for attention.